Welcome, everybody. I've been teasing this all week, and now let's actually do it. I want to talk about the slice of America, the Trump voters, who are going to get absolutely steamrolled by the policies of their dear leader in his second term, some of whom are already seeing this firsthand with the brief Medicaid state system freeze out earlier this week and in other ways. As always, the people who cheer the loudest for Trump are often the ones who end up holding the bag when the dust settles. So first I want to look at the rural working class voters. This is the backbone of Donald Trump's base, and these are some of the folks that if Trump gets his way are going to be absolutely brutalized. These are the folks who apparently bought into Trump's promises of bringing back manufacturing jobs, revitalizing coal, imagine that, making the United States the economic powerhouse that it supposedly once was. But the thing is that Trump's trade wars, which he's doubling down on in 2025, are already wreaking havoc on farmers and small businesses, and there's only going to be more of it if Trump gets his way. Tariffs on foreign goods, sure, they sound very tough, but they mean equipment will be more expensive, supplies will be more expensive, consumer goods are going to be more expensive, and when other countries retaliate with their tariffs, it's the farmers in Iowa and the factory workers in Ohio who are going to get hit the hardest. But at least Trump got to tweet about winning again, right? There's some Pyrrhic victory there, maybe. Then we go to the healthcare debacle. Trump has promised yet again to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. The problem is he still has no plan to replace it with anything of substance. The attempt that Trump previously made to do that in 2017 was analyzed, and if it had become the law, it didn't. Even Republicans were like, this is crazy. But if it had become the law, Trump's 2017 plan would have led to 24 to 32 million people losing health care coverage, so they didn't do it. August of 2020, Trump said his health care plan was 2 weeks away. During debates in 2024, Trump said he had concepts of a plan. Later, he was asked about it again. He said the concepts are developing, but when millions of Americans, many of them in red states, lose their health insurance, if Trump does get something done, who's going to suffer the most? It's not the wealthy elites. They're going to be fine. It's going to be the wealthy, it's going to be the not wealthy, working class Trump supporters in places like West Virginia and Kentucky. If you are poor in Kentucky, do you think you'll get to keep your health care when Trump decimates it because you voted for him? Not the way it works. And now what we're seeing with the Medicaid fiasco from earlier this week, the places and the people that rely on that Medicaid expansion dating all the way back to 2010 and Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act subsidies, they are going to get screwed. But remember, Trump told us, who knew healthcare could be so complicated? That's the guy they are now entrusting to figure it out. Then we go to Social Security and to Medicare. Now, Trump has flirted with the idea of maybe we cut these programs for a long time. When the pressure builds, and it did during the campaign, Trump always goes, no, those are staying, we're not going to cut those. The people around Trump say, no, those are staying, we're not going to cut those. But when you really get these folks to be more honest, they say nothing should be sacrosanct. Everything should be considered. Like, why would we just say, no, this is something we're not going to touch? And now Trump in his second term has a Republican House and a Republican Senate. They want to slash the budget. Some of them are talking about 2.5 trillion. Remember that the entire discretionary budget is 2.5 trillion. How do you cut 2.5 trillion without cutting the discretionary budget to zero unless you do something with the mandatory spending? It's just very simple arithmetic. And the Wall Street billionaires and millionaires are not going to feel the pain. Vivek and Mark Zuckerberg and Shou Chu, and they're not going to feel the pain. It's the retirees in Florida, the retirees in Arizona who voted for Trump because they either thought he would save those programs or they didn't think that he was going to cut them. And the spoiler is that Trump's not going to be there for you. Finally, number 4, the environment. What can you say? Trump's rollback of environmental regulations is just a gift to big oil and corporate polluters. He's looking at getting rid of the $7,500 federal tax credit for electric vehicles, which has been accelerating adoption of electric vehicles. He's been rolling back regulations. He wants to roll back regulations even more. He won't acknowledge climate change as playing a role in the California fires or in any of the other things that are going on. Disaster for everybody, but of course, who gets screwed the most? It's the folks who have trouble even meeting the deductible of their home insurance when something terrible happens. It's the folks in the rural communities who rely and want and deserve clean air and water, but are the first to see it polluted because of some fracking site or some factory upstream. The CEO of Exxon is going to be fine. The CEO of Chevron and DuPont, and they're going to be fine. And then finally, you've got the culture war nonsense. Trump's obsession with punishing woke companies, attacking LGBT rights. It plays well at the rallies. It plays really, really well. It does nothing for the average Trump voter. Oh, we've got to get men out of women's sports. Yeah, thank you. It does nothing to help a poor farmer in Iowa. Nothing at all. It does nothing to help a family below the poverty line in Louisiana. And if anything, it distracts from real issues because the stagnant wages and the rising costs and the crumbling infrastructure, stuff that affects people's lives, it doesn't get dealt with while Trump is signing executive orders about how you define a woman or what gender you're allowed to use which restroom and whether the bidet should be allowed only for trans men or cis men or whatever the case may be. Drag queens, this and all of that. There's an irony here. It's a sad irony. It's almost poetic. One might even say it's borderline Kafkaesque, I dare say. The people who worship Trump the most, the ones who wear the hats and fly the flags and spend 8 hours driving to his rallies to be in the sun and using the porta potties and then with no ride out, those sad folks are the ones who are going to bear the brunt of his policies. They've been sold the bill of goods, and they're about to find out that the con man always seems to win. So I would say enjoy the ride. I don't think it's going to be very enjoyable. And it is a very sad state of affairs. I'm sorry to the people that are already starting to get screwed.
We've seen many high-profile data breaches this year, raising serious concerns about personal information security, and most alarming, National Public Data announced a major breach potentially impacting nearly every American. It exposed 2.9 billion records, including names, addresses, dates of birth, phone numbers, social security numbers, and hackers released all of this online for free. But I feel secure thanks to Aura, one of our sponsors. Aura monitors your personal data. This includes your social across billions of data points, including dark web and public records. It will let you know if there's an identity theft risk, and they provide up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. Aura offers additional safety features like real-time breach alerts, a password manager, and much more. I don't want to leave myself or my family vulnerable to these data breaches. If you don't want to either, go to aura.com/Pacman to try 2 weeks free. That's enough time to see if your personal data is already exposed. The link is in the description.